All right, folks, I'm joined once again with Larry Ballard, who's going to have a PowerPoint presentation for us. Stay tuned on this one, folks. You're going to love it. We're going to be talking about the explosive weeks ahead, the bills that are coming down the pipeline, the reset, the whole thing, folks. We're in it right now. It's getting ready. This is turning in a direction we're going in a trajectory that's just going to be phenomenal. It's going to be hard for a lot of people for a while, but it's going to be phenomenal. And with that being said, folks, noble gold, baby. Oh yeah. Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live, folks. Your investment should help you live that life. That's why more Americans are choosing gold and silver. Silver's exploding right now, by the way. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Freedom and peace of mind delivered an ounce at a time. All right, Larry, man, I'm hearing so much about like this week coming and the months ahead. This summer is going to be a hot summer, the whole thing. I had a long discussion with Juanito the other day, some of Steve Bannon's people, Andy Bottolato. It's just everyone's preparing for something very explosive. So, man, I'm deriving my information from different camps of people to give me a more well-rounded outlook on everything. But all sides agree explosive times ahead in the next few weeks. I mean, months, really.
By the end of the year, this will all be over.
You think so? Well, I mean,
that's when that happens.
okay. Well, okay. You want me to pull up the slides?
I'm ready if you are.
Okay, so folks, I'm going to pull up the slides right now. And here we are.
All right, folks. Here's where we're at. God, I want to do this on behalf of God, on behalf of all of God's children out there. There's a lot of people who just don't believe that it's possible to have a financial reset that transfers wealth from the wicked to the righteous. It can make you wealthy overnight. So what I'm going to do is talk about the reset that's coming. It's going to affect the paper currency, silver, crypto, all of it. This is the beginning. The next week,
we're already seeing it, man. The XRP and silver shooting up right now.
Yep. So it's going to really kick in. And so basically next week we got the Genius Act coming in. We got all kinds of stuff happening. So basically, but I want to focus on one particular investment right now, the Viet Dong, because it's cheap. Because people can get in and buy it. It's only $60 to buy $1 million worth of Viet Dong. And if the numbers that I'm hearing are true, it's going to value to $2. So $60 buys you $1 million dong, which then multiplies and becomes 2 billion. So it's a risk reward ratio that says, my God, for $60, you might be worth 2 million bucks. So let's dig into it. And we're going to lay down the foundation for why what Nino said is happening. The reset is in play right now. It's beginning. So let's go to the next slide. Nino says he's got a short timeline, so I'm going to talk fast. All right, here's what's happening. For decades, all the way back to Andrew Jackson, if you tried to bring in a gold or silver-backed currency, they tried to kill you. So those three men on the top, starting with Jackson, with Reagan, and with Trump, they've tried to assassinate. But all those men on the bottom were all about going to a gold-backed system, and they were assassinated. Now let's go to the next slide, and we'll see that all of a sudden.
So really, this all comes down to money. Bottom line, it's always that.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, it's good. Money is controlled. He who controls money controls the world, because he then has the money to buy all the spheres of influence, the media, the politicians, and control everything from the background.
And cares not who makes the laws, right?
That's right. They make them. They pay for somebody to make them. So what you're looking at is a history of the nations that were the world's reserve currency. So following World War II, up till World War II, it was Britain. And they basically had that privilege like we have. Then they went bankrupt as a result of World War II. And we had something called Bretton Woods, where all the nations of the world got together and said, everybody's destabilized. The world's been bombed into smithereens, except for the United States, which has its manufacturing intact, has its gold. We want you to be the world's reserve currency. Well, we abused it because we printed money 24/7, and then we used SWIFT to say any nation that doesn't comply with U.S. policy, we're going to sanction your currencies and lock you out of your own money. So now we're up to a point. This reset is effectively a new Bretton Woods, where the financial fiat system has reached the top of its debt limit and is imploding. So we're going to have a worldwide financial collapse, but it's going to come back very quick, and we're going to have what effectively is a new reserve currency, but it's not going to be the dollar solely, which is what it's been since World War II. It's going to be a basket of different nations, of different currencies. The goal on the part of Trump is to not have happen to us what happened to Britain when they lost control as the world's reserve currency. They had a catastrophic 10-year financial collapse. So as we get deeper down into this, we're going to find out what Trump is doing to give us a soft landing, with his goal being that we come out of this and we still control about 60% of the global trade, meaning 60% of the trade in the world is still conducted in the dollar, which gives us still global leverage. So America comes out having lost sole control of the currency, but still becoming out the dominant factor in the currency market, meaning America retains its position as a global superpower and the leader. This next slide, there's only 2 slides in here I'm going to go through in detail. This next slide, I'm literally going to read it to you folks. So
Can you just hold on one second, because I want to ask you, what is the Genius Act? What's
the
entailed
Genius
in it?
Act is basically, there's 2 things coming out. We've got, last week, we had the bill that was Trump's big, new, beautiful deal, and everybody lambasted it. But if you understand what Trump's doing, it basically lays the open door for what we're talking about. The Genius Act is cram-packed full of stuff about crypto. Basically, Trump said that as we make this soft landing, so we'll get into that in another slide, it's going to be based on crypto. He's going to make America the crypto capital of the world. So it's basically got all kinds of stuff about his tariffs in it. It's got stuff about cryptocurrencies. He's positioned it himself so that he can do exactly what it said, make America the crypto capital of the world. And if you don't mind, I'll get into it in read detail when we get to the right slide where they can see the graphics to it. So this is what's happening right before you folks. Follow along. I'm going to read it. The fatal flaw underpinning fiat currency. What is it? Every dollar printed, every single dollar creates a bond. And the bond is a debt obligation. And it means that we have to pay interest for a fiat system that creates a worthless piece of paper that charges us interest. And since every dollar creates more and more debt, eventually reach the point where we can't absorb any more debt. That's where the whole world's at. Britain's in trouble, Japan's in trouble, China's in trouble, Russia's in trouble, we're in trouble. The global fiat system was always designed to collapse. We're at that point. That's why everything is changing so rapidly. So every dollar printed creates a debt obligation. So eventually the financial system collapses under a mountain of debt. Here's what happens. This is the fatal era of the progressive tax system. So here's what happens. Income tax, 100% of it goes to the Fed. Nothing, and you pay an income tax. If you pay 35%, you don't have any money that goes to a road, to a school, to anything. It goes to the global financial elite over in Europe. That system is collapsing. And as the nation's debt increases, our taxes then are not sufficient to take our federal income tax and pay that tax burden that we owe for the printing of our money. So what do? We have new taxes, and then that isn't enough. And then we put taxes on, raise those taxes. So what Trump just managed to do was to get his tax cuts from the first term renewed and basically made permanent. So basically that's the first step of what's triggering these things that we see with the financial reset. And then the last of this, under this fiat currency Ponzi system, there can never be a debt ceiling. There can never be a point where we pay off our debt. It has to collapse and we have to start over. So we go over to the left side and debt increases and tax increases. Then comes the economic crash. And Trump is setting up a system so it isn't so devastating to us as it was to Britain when they collapsed. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to see the flip side of what Trump has been doing with his tariffs. So if you can go to the next slide, Nino, can you roll it up? All right, so here's what he did with tariffs. He said to all of the first world countries, we're in trade deals that are intentionally losing and we're bleeding out. We're going to fix that. We're going to have tariffs placed on you to where we reach parity. Where you make some money, we make some money. It's a fair deal for everybody. That's what Trump is doing on the tariff side. But on the other side, when you go to the third world countries, there was no tariffs on Africa. I don't know if people knew that, but in the tariff bills, he put tariffs on Africa, and it did something. It was intended to do something. It's 180 degrees the flip side of what happened with the tariffs on first world countries. So what happened? You see it on your screen right here. Africa raised its hand and said, we are going to become the United States of Africa. So they are breaking down all of the borders. Just like the United States, you can cross from one state to another and you're not going like to another country. Well, they're doing that. They're basically creating the United States of Africa. And what else are they doing? They're basically, the PAPSS Act says, we're going digital. They are getting together, pooling their money, and backing it by gold and having their own sovereign currency, getting out from the fiat system under the dollar. And they're going to basically set up so that they're crypto-based, so that they are basically have what? They have 1.4 billion people. That is a gigantic domestic marketplace. And then they said something to the world. Hey, everybody wake up. This is like 1973. In 1973, I was old enough. I was driving a car. You go to the gas station, you can only buy gas based upon whether your plate was even or odd every other day. So OPEC stepped up and said, we got something the world needs. We're in control now. Africa has stepped up and said this to the world. We got something you need. It's not just oil. It's all of the minerals that you need to basically produce all the products that you need to produce in the world. So they said, we're now in control. So here's what they've done. One by one, they're kicking out all of the first world countries and saying, you can come back, no problem. You can come back. You can still have your gold mining contracts and your oil contracts. But here's the deal. The tables have changed. We're in control now. So when we do a deal with you going forward, if you come back, we're going to have 51% equity. More than that, we're not going to sell you our crude oil. It's going to be refined. We're not going to sell you our crude gold. It's going to be refined. And we're going to basically be a consumer, not just somebody that is taken advantage of. So with what you see here, with Africa becoming the United States of Africa, that's a parallel.
United States of Africa. That's crazy.
And then going to go to a gold-backed currency and to cryptos, they're moving just exactly into the same place the first world countries are, but they're in the driver's seat now because they're saying now we have something with our rare earths. They got more rare earth minerals than any other continent in the world. They're in the driver's seat. So we're going back to that period, just like what happened in 1973, and we're going back to the period that happened right after the World War II, when we had Bretton Woods, which said we have to have a stable currency in order to trade across borders. And now we're saying with the financial system collapsing, it's no longer going to be solely the United States, but it's going to be several different currencies. Think of the BRICS nations that are backed by gold and silver and commodities that can't be manipulated so easily. But Trump's plan is to still have us have our power that we have. Maybe not as much, but power. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll break it down even just a little more. So this is the bottom line. The bottom line is when you create currency backed by nothing, it's a debt trap. That currency is worth literally nothing. And we had 6 Supreme Court cases that justified that said that the Constitution of the United States does not allow for taxing an individual's labor. And so we're going to find out that, guess what, folks, with all the things that are happening that we're going to be talking about in the Genius Act and the Big New Deal in the coming next couple of weeks, we're going to pay down our national debt, maybe even exclude it. We're going to get out from under the Federal Reserve. And at the very last moment, America is going to go on to a commodity-backed system, just like all the BRICS nations, and the whole world will have flipped the economic system. I think you had a comment to make.
Yeah, so you're aware of 2 bills coming down the pipeline, don't you? The Genius Act and
Yes.
Big New Bill, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's Trump's great big new beautiful deal, and it lays the groundwork. These 2 bills together lay the groundwork for everything we're talking about.
You're
right
not
here.
talking about
That's
the big beautiful
all
bill
this
that just
stuff.
passed. You're talking about a new one that's coming, correct?
No, I'm talking about the big new beautiful bill that just passed, and I've just done a show on it that I've queued up because people don't understand. They're saying, "Oh my God, it's going to bankrupt us. We're going to have $5 trillion added in debt." Well, let's just take, I'm not prepared to talk about it in detail. That's a whole show in itself, but let's just take one example. So every president we've had since Carter, the debt started growing, and it's first $2 trillion a year, then it's $5 trillion in administration, then under Obama it was $10 trillion. So they're saying Trump's going to put $5 trillion worth of new debt. Well, guess what? by making America great, by basically saying to the world, you come to America, and if you will make your products in America, you will have no tariffs, and you'll have the cheapest taxes in the world, and we'll be the crypto capital of the world. Guess what happened? We've had $12 trillion worth of commitments to build new factories. This thing is going to ignite the world, and America is going to come out of it very, very, very strong. Like he said, I will make America great again. So those bills are going to create that momentum to create the wealth that we're going to have in the wealth transfer. So
Okay.
should we go on to the next slide?
Sure.
Because I know you're under a time constraint. So this next one is something I need to explain to you. We're going to have a currency reset. The dong is going to revalue, the dinar is going to revalue, the 𝗬𝗏 is going to revalue. Then I think the others will hold off because there's requirements that they have to meet. Well, one of them is right here before you. All these currencies that have been devalued basically are not traded on the Forex. They're considered junk currencies. So in order to get on the Forex and be used for global trade, they have to have certain value points. So one of the things that has to happen, why this takes so long, folks, is the G7 and the G20 all have to get together and say, do we think these currencies are now valuable? Are we ready to put them on the Forex? And they all have to agree. So guess what? In the past few months, the past couple of years, those agreements have been reached, and that creates a win-win situation for everybody because the dong now and the dinar and other currencies can be revalued and put on the Forex and used to trade. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll show you the quintessential thing that has to happen that is scaring the daylights out of people, but it's absolutely the best thing that can happen. The world does not want to be controlled by anybody. Everybody wants to be on a semi-level playing field. So we have to have deglobalization. What's that mean? That started in 2020 with COVID. It means that trade is going to be stripped away from China and given to all the nations of the world. So no nation can control the world.
Larry,
and so basically,
you're allowed. I know you're in a. I know. I told you I'm on a time constraint, but you could take a breath.
okay, all right,
You can take a breath. Don't worry. You can breathe.
okay.
All right. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to get her done for you.
I know. I feel
So
like I'm at an
basically,
auction.
we're going to have deglobalization happen, and that means that trade's coming away from China. It's going to where? One of the biggest recipients is Vietnam. That's the dong. So let's stop right there and let's analyze what's happening in Vietnam. They got a 6% GDP. They have one of the youngest populations in the world. They have modern factories. They have a lot of gold. They have a lot of silver. They have a lot of assets. And basically, they're growing by leaps and bounds because so much of what's leaving China is going to Vietnam. So they're positioned to have their currency raised. And if they don't raise them, look at what happens. If your currency is way, way, way devalued, it actually means you have a major advantage against first world nations in trade. So we're trying to fix it and bring everybody together. Then you go to the next thing that has to happen. That's de-dollarization. So when we have leveraged nations and said, if you don't do what the America wants, we're going to sanction you and we're going to lock your money up. Nations don't want that. So that's where the de-dollarization comes. And instead of America being the sole reserve currency, we're going to come out of it being the dominant reserve currency. And then what's all that going to look like after that happens? Go to the next slide. Here's what's going to happen. First world countries. So we got America, we got China, we got the EU, we got Japan, we got Britain. They're going to have the currencies go down in value. The third world countries, Africa, Vietnam, India, Iraq, Brazil, they're all going to go up because what? They're going to come in and do a true accounting of the assets they have, the gold, the silver, the wheat, the oil, and they're going to determine what their currencies are actually worth. And the first world and third world nations are going to end at relative parity. Eisenhower said the principal cause of war is when nations have a huge discrepancy between their asset values and one nation is rich and the other nation is poor. So this is all leading to creating a relatively stable economic system. This next slide, Nino, is going to answer the question that you were asking. How is Trump going to create a soft landing. So the economy is going to go down, stock market's going to go crazy, all kinds of pandemonium is going to happen. 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀 told us that this was going to happen, that we were going to have a strange July. We're going to have a fall where governmental officials and people in the media are going to fall. This is what Trump is going to do. So let me walk through this pretty slowly. Navigating the Great Reset, the global financial system must collapse, but it's going to rebound very quickly. Here are the steps that Trump is putting in as a genius. Establish US as a global leader in crypto. So 3 years ago, Bitcoin was 60% of it was mined in China. They gave that up, and now America has it, and Donald Trump says we're going to be the crypto capital of the world. The whole world is moving to crypto, to digital currencies. And so he's saying with his tariff bills, if you will come to America, you don't have to worry about tariffs. There won't be any. Make your products in America. That's what led to that $12 trillion commitment to build factories in America. Then he's saying to the American people, if you buy a crypto, an XRP or an XLM from an American-based company, if I can get the bill passed, and I'm not sure if it's in the Genius Act or not, then basically you will not pay capital gains. You'll not pay tax on that crypto. That gives us a huge lever in the market that he's betting on once he takes us over and puts us on a commodity-backed system, gives us that soft collapse. So here's what he's done. Establish a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Did you know that he went around on that capitulation tour in 2016, 2017, and told all kinds of nations around the world, we've got what we know what you've done. And so this Bitcoin that he's got, that he's using as a strategic reserve, that was all seized assets. He didn't pay a penny for any of that.
Wow.
So that's already showing you he's taking the wealth, the wicked to the righteous. And what that does is now we're paying a lot of high interest to the Fed for that debt that we have. But now we're going to set up a strategic reserve based on Bitcoin. So let's look at how loans work. If you've got a loan that's not secured, you're going to pay a higher interest rate. But if you've got one that's secured, you pay a lower interest rate. So he's basically going to make us our own bank. And if we do have to borrow money, it'll be at a lower rate. Then what's he going to do? Then he's going to set up a stable coin. He's going to back the dollar to the stable coin, back it by gold, and become the crypto capital of the world. And America has eased in to the transfer from being the sole reserve currency to coming out of it, hopefully still retaining 60% of all global trade conducted in US dollars. That's our soft landing, and America is still a global superpower. And what else has he done, folks? Several things. This will be what we'll be talking about in the next couple of weeks. But one of the things he did, we had bleed with intentionally losing trade programs, but we've been carrying Europe, NATO. So last time he was in, he made them pay 2%. And now what did he do? As soon as he bombed Iran, setting the stage for this fight, for this reset of the currencies, he went to NATO and said, now you're going to pay 5%. And every nation except Spain said yes. So look at all that money we're not going to be spending on our military that can go to pay off our debt. And there's a lot more involved in paying that debt off than I'm able to talk about here. So once we go through this reset that's beginning to happen, let's go to the next slide and let's see what that means.
Especially when Powell steps down from the Federal Reserve, that's going to cause a lot of chaos within the markets, correct?
Yep, and
that's going to be the big sign right there. That's going to be the.
You nailed it. You nailed it, Nino. That's exactly what's coming. So here's
Do you
what
think
happens.
that's coming this week? I heard it could be coming this coming week. I heard like.
Well, I mean, I hear the same things you do, and I usually say, well, let's wait and see.
Yeah, but I mean, all right,
imminent.
fair enough.
It's imminent. So here's what happens after that happens, and after we get out from under the Federal Reserve, we no longer have a fiat system. We have a system backed by gold, by silver.
Well, let me ask you this: Are we gonna be a cashless society?
Someday, but not immediately. But we're going to run on QSF, on quantum financial system, and basically it's like they've always said, when we go to a digital currency that's gold and silver and oil tankers, you have to have something that fractionalizes it. That is XRP and XLM. So we'll go to a digital commodity, and then what happens is you can't manipulate.
But what about the people that hold on, time out? What about when you keep the XRP on an exchange? Do you have to put it on the wallet? What do you do here, man? I mean, it's a pain in the ass to put it in the wallet, by the way.
Well, that's a whole
It's,
show in and of itself.
I mean, it's just
Basically,
so
what you're talking
complicated,
about
man.
is you're talking about there'll still be currencies. We've already got currencies printed. It's called RAIDMO currencies. People who want to use currency can use currency. But we're going to go generally, right now, 98% of all transactions are already done digitally. So they're going to simplify this as we roll into this. Now it's complicated. It won't be. We'll get regulatory clarity, and we'll be able to go out just like you do with PayPal, and you can transact electronically in crypto, but you won't even know you're doing it. So right now it's complicated, but it's not going to be. They're going to simplify it and roll it out. But here's what happens. So now when you're under a commodity-backed system that has true value, you can't manipulate things. So the inflation we've encountered goes away. The deflation goes away. You have pricing stability. We don't have wage suppression anymore. We don't have stock market manipulations, booms and busts. We don't have national consumer debt. We're going to get our debt paid off. We don't have poverty and division that separates all the nations of the world and leads to war. We have global conflicts are going to go away because all nations are going to be relatively at parity in terms of their economic status. And we won't have people starving around the world. So let's go on down to the next. And I think I'm going to finish within your time frame. So let's go to the next slide. This is the gift that I think God wanted me to give to you. I could talk about the dinar, but the dinar, as over time, has gotten expensive to buy. For $500,000 dinar right now, I think it's 500,000. I haven't bought any in years, but I did recently buy some dong, and it's only $60 to buy $1 million in dong. And the numbers I've been hearing flying around are that it's probably going to revalue at $2. So if you spend $60 and bought $1 million dong, theoretically, you could walk away with $2 million. So now I ask you this. That's a tank and a half of gasoline. So I always look at things as risk reward. So if I talk to you about buying XRP or buying the dinar, you might be looking at spending a lot of money. But here, for just a little, you might become a millionaire. So the risk reward, $60 may get you nothing, or it may get you $2 million.
Worth
so
it.
I say most everybody out there can afford $60. God wants you to know that. And then guess what happens? If this goes first, and then there are other currencies that haven't proved they're stable, say the 𝗏𝗶𝗏, say it revalues in a couple of months, then you can take the money you made off of the dong and buy some 𝗏𝗏. I don't know where silver is going to come in, but we're kicking up against that blockage that we've faced. Everybody says it's got to go above 30 and stay above 30, and then it might break out to 50. And then when it breaks up to 50, what's going to happen? We might have an opportunity to have it go back to the ratio that it's had with gold for eons, which is 16 silver coins buys you 1 gold coin. And if you do that, that means silver would probably go to $120 to $200 an ounce. That's imminently, it's just right at that door. And then we look at what's happening with Bitcoin. And then we look at the Genius Act coming out next week. We look at the probability that the XRP case is going to be finally resolved. And we look at the fact that ISO 2 2022 𝗦𝗶𝗶 is kicking in on July the 4th, and the Genius Act on top of that, which is all the crypto stuff. And basically the stage is set for the financial transfer of wealth from the wicked to the righteous. And I picked the Vietnam dong here because it represents the least investment that you can make in order to maybe come away a millionaire. All of those other investments are excellent, but I wanted to say, I want to give a blessing to the maximum number of people. This is the cheapest buy-in you can have in order to walk away with $1 million. And we've got shows coming up next week that we're going to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into this, but I believe it's starting now. I don't know. I don't think it'll all happen in one day, but once it happens, I think it's going bam, 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 pretty fast. And I think by the fall, here's what happens with XRP. XRP, they're now admitting it was always intended to be the rails for transfer of money from nation to nation. And that's all set up in what Trump is doing with these bills. And so basically what happens with XRP, it's going to jump as ISO 2 22 compliance comes in, as regulatory clarity comes in, but the real gains are going to happen when it's implemented. So trillions of dollars start to get traded. And guess what? It's already been happening, not internationally, but within the banking system from peer-to-peer banks. They've been running it for 3 years at volume. They know it works. And so what's Garley now said? He said, one day we're going to flip a switch. And when we flip a switch, the retail market is going to be too expensive for most people and you'll be locked out. So I'm trying to give people some sense of urgency that says, I don't know when they're going to flip that switch, but it looks like everything is in place so they can flip it anytime they want. So I believe that God wants as many of his children as possible to be able to have this wealth transfer, and he's going to give it primarily to those that will share it with the world. So I'm trying to raise the flag and say, I don't know what the timing is,
Okay.
but I think if I analyze everything, that by the end of this year, the whole financial reset is going to have occurred, but it's triggering right now. So Nino, that's everything I've got, unless you've got some comments to make.
Well,
Go on down to the next slide. I want you to look at this, folks, and I want to thank you. I now have got all the money I need to print my next book.
you got it?
So do not donate. I'm over the top. We're there.
Wow.
And I want to thank everybody who donated. And even something else happened. I'm launching my own new platform. I'm going to have 𝗬𝗶𝗱𝗏 𝗀𝗃. I'm doing this with a brand new camera. A lady donated $1,000, take me over the top on the book, and then she turned around and donated money for equipment. And so basically, her name, I made a mistake the other day. I thanked her on air, and her name is Randy, and I used he. So it is a very sweet lady named Randy. So basically, we're over the top. Do not send us any money. We do not need it. The book should be coming out. I'm having a conference call with my publisher on Monday. And if everything is on track, it should be out by around August the 15th.
That's amazing, Larry.
Thank you. What?
That's amazing.
It is amazing. But God's a God who keeps his promises. And so, folks, if Nino can have me back next week, I've got something queued up for the big, beautiful deal. And then I'm working on something for the Genius Act, but I'm sure he's got multiple sources.
No.
Just
You
eyes
come
out
on
for
anytime.
those
Just
topics.
text me.
Okay. So
Got it.
unless you got questions or comments, Nino,
this is you laid it all out. I don't really have any questions. I'm good to go.
Okay. That's
Wow.
the end.
So
then.
so I do have a question, actually. So we're going to kind of be
Okay.
running side by side with the Federal Reserve, for coexisting with them for a while until it switches over.
Well, I can't say for certain, but I can look at footsteps. So what we're seeing right now is we're seeing the head of the Fed looking like he's going to lose his job, right?
Right.
And then we're seeing all these things. There's currency things that people don't think about. So as we go through this, basically, we're going to start getting money in from the tariffs, right? Well, that money can be used to pay down our national debt. And then when the currencies revaluate, well, guess what? America has trillions of dollars of Vietnam dong and of dinar. And guess what? That's trillions coming into the U.S. National Treasury that we can do what with? Pay off some of our national debt. That's us getting out from under the Fed. And then we have millions within our community, right? And guess what? When we make our millions, the government reaches his hand out and says, you owe us money. So the government gets more money. So there's a whole bunch of things coming. And for example, gold right now, you were talking about gold and silver. It's on our treasuries on the books at $40 an ounce. Trump has just announced he's going to revalue gold. It's selling at 3,000. So guess what that does? That takes all the gold we've got and it makes it multiply and worth more. All of those factors are going to come together and roll over money that we can use to pay our national debt off. Will we go to zero? I don't know, but we could. But it looks like we're going to get out of the Fed. And so we have to look at all these revenue streams that are being created by what Trump is doing and saying we can pay down that debt, pay down that debt, pay down that debt. And for the first time in history, we might get out from under the fiat system, go to a commodity-backed system, then it cannot be manipulated. And America comes through this with a soft collapse. And here's what we're going to do for the world. We became the wealthiest nation in the world in 34 years following the Civil War when we invented the Industrial Revolution. A whole bunch of those patents were sequestered and never given to us. But with what Trump did with the Chevron deal, there's 6,000 US patents that we're going to get access to, and they're going to give us virtually free energy. We're going to get out from under the lying $93 trillion Green New Deal. And when you look at what's going to happen, which I can do in other shows, the cost of everything you buy as a retail purchase is going to be 40 or 50% less, because the principal cost of everything you've ever bought in your life is the energy. And once we get a new energy system, the cost is going to go down. And last thing, in terms of your question, a house that was $200,000 in 20 is now 400,000, not because it's worth more, but because the dollar has had a dramatic drop. Well, once we go back on our commodity-backed system, the dollar is going to be worth $1, and that $400,000 house, it might cost $40,000.
Wow.
So the things that are going to come to the people of this world in forms of the wealth transfer are going to come in many ways, but it's going to bless us and blessed us. And like Trump said, you're going to get tired
All
of
right.
winning.
Thank you, Larry.
That's what.
Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
All right. Stay with me
Always
just
a
one
pleasure.
second. Stay with me for a second. All right,
Okay.
folks. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Larry, stay with me just for a second.